People's houses have come a long way since our ancestors' days in caves. While the caves were protection from wild animals and harsh weather, houses today serve for a lot more than that. Yeah, we still need roofs over our heads for the same purposes as our ancestors, but our houses have additional edges, luxury, and expression of art. Abodes around the world are now a show of fine living, and just how creative a person's mind can get. Curious to see? We've compiled the 10 most unusual houses around the world. You'll appreciate the thought process that went into coming up with these structures. Number 10. Carrot House, Poland. Spacious is probably one of the first things you aim for when looking to move. You won't necessarily be looking for a behemoth apartment, you just want it to be big enough so you won't have to keep bumping into stuff. But the owner of the world's narrowest house is the exact opposite. The Carrot House in Warsaw, Poland, is a measly 122 centimeters wide and is sandwiched between two other buildings. Well, that's super slim for any space meant for people, but this width is not uniform to the whole house. The slimmest part is about 92 centimeters. According to the owner and designer, Jacob Szynski, he wanted to make sure every urban space is used. It's not clear if he set up other miniature houses though, because we're pretty sure there's a bunch of those same spaces that are even bigger. If you're claustrophobic, you've probably already ruled out the possibility of ever stepping into the Carrot House. Well, it's only natural. But even those who are perfectly fine with hanging out in closed spaces, staying in such a house for a long period isn't a really good idea. That's why the smallest house has no permanent residence. The patron, Edgar Carrot, whom after the small house was named, receives temporary guests into the property. And not just anyone can rent the unusually small house. It's mainly traveling artists that get a chance. Number 9. Toilet-shaped house, South Korea. This peculiar house in Suwon, South Korea, has a rather interesting backstory. It was set up by Sim Jae-da, a politician who built his career as the country's Mr. Toilet by making sure that the public restrooms were as clean as possible. According to some sources, he got this inspiration from the fact that he was born in his grandmother's bathroom. The house is dubbed Haewujai, which translates to a place of sanctuary where one can solve their worries, and is a state-of-the-art piece of architecture, in addition to being costly. Sim reportedly spent over $1 million to put up the house and intended to further his lifelong mission of spreading awareness about toilets and hygiene. The building is a 24-foot-tall toilet bowl with 4 bathrooms in total. Visitors can access the roof, which is the rim of the bowl, via the stairs. Besides allowing access to the balcony, the stairs are also equipped to harvest rainwater. Number 8. The Helidome, France. Climate change has been a hot topic for the past few years, and everyone, at least those who acknowledge that there is climate change, have been pushing for environmentally friendly living. Eric Wasser took this concept of eco-friendly living to a whole new level, where he constructed the Helidome. The one-of-a-kind house is made in such a way that it doesn't need additional energy sources to regulate its temperature. It's self-sufficient in that front, as long as there's the sun. To achieve this, it's set up at an angle in the shape of a sundial. So, during the ultra-hot summer months, the house has enough shade to keep it cool. During winter, fall, and spring, when the sun is lower on the horizon, the house is exposed enough to get the much-needed sun rays. A lot of CO2 emissions are eliminated this way, and thus providing the perfect eco-friendly dwelling. But the visibly weird shape could be a hindrance against its widespread adoption. That's if Wasser tried to push for it. Most locals equate it to some spacecraft and would rather it look more of a house. Number 7. Egg House, China. It's no secret that property prices have been on the rise. This has made owning a house financially draining. That's for the fortunate ones. For some, it's become impossible. And China's capital, Beijing, has been exempt. That's precisely why Chinese architect Dai Haifei had to get creative. He built himself this interesting egg-shaped house just a few meters from his office because the houses around the city were way out of his cost. The small house cost him approximately $1,000 to set up on a sidewalk and is just enough for what he would wish for in a house. He made the house using bamboo strips and covered the outside using patches of stuffed bags. The bags contain processed wood peels and grass seeds, which will germinate come spring, pretty much covering the house. Dai's mattress is covered by unique heat prevention and waterproof material, so he can get the much-needed sleep at the end of the day, or whenever he gets the chance. Just like the Helidome, Dai's house can be said to be eco-friendly and is powered exclusively by solar energy. Number 6. Upside Down House, Poland. Apart from the world's slimmest house, here's another one from Poland. While the Carrot House was unconventional due to its teeny size, this is upside down, as the name indicates. It was set up in a museum in Zimbark, northern Poland. Everything in the house has been flipped. When you walk in, you'll be stepping on the ceiling, and when you look up, you'll be gazing at the floor. And to make it even more interesting, the floor is glued with furniture, so it appears like a chair is gonna hit you at any time. This make has had a profound effect on visitors, with some reporting feelings of dizziness upon entering the house. The construction of the house had to take considerably longer than it should have, due to the same feeling befalling the workers. While the other houses in this video appear only once around the world, upside-down houses are a fairly common phenomenon. Other such houses can be found in Vancouver, Canada, Trossenheide, Germany, Georgia, USA, Mallorca, Spain, and Florida, USA. Number 5. The Kettle House, USA. The Kettle House is quite a famous structure in Galveston, Texas. The house is an inverted steel dome, made sometime back in the 1960s by World War II veteran Clayton E. Stockley. The odd house was originally meant to be a convenience and liquor store, but for some reason, this didn't come to fruition. The company that made it had a giant steel hemisphere and had no idea what to do with it. So Mr. Clayton bought the steel structure for the company, again intending to turn it into a store of some sort. He was well on track to accomplish this, but passed away before the project was complete. And so, the project stalled with steel structure being on the receiving end of bad weather. The roof rusted and curved, but the family members later replaced it. It's now a listed vacation property on Airbnb, having been furnished. You can reserve to pop into this interesting piece of architecture if you ever decide to step on Galveston Island. It's good that it finally got put to use after all those years of idling. Number 4. Giant Seashell House, Mexico. Ever wonder what it feels like to be inside a seashell? Well, we might never get to know. The shells are just too tiny. There is a house in Mexico that might offer a close enough experience. It's called the Giant Seashell House, molded into the shape of a seashell. The house was built for a family who apparently was too fed up with the everyday box houses common today. To get this unique residence, they enlisted the services of renowned Mexican architect Javier Senosian. Senosian took a few notes from both Frank Lloyd Wright and Antoni Gaudí, who are both prolific architects. The house is made using a technique called ferrocement construction, in which a steel-enforced chicken wire is coated with concrete, which makes the smooth curve seen here a possibility. This, according to the lead architect, makes the house earthquake-proof, as well as maintenance-free. And you can see the finishing was done to perfection. The entrance is barricaded by a colorful stained glass, which lends the interior a beautiful illumination. Probably the truest meaning of the word dreamy you'll ever find. Number 3. Flintstones-inspired house, USA. It turns out entertainment pieces can be more than just offering a way for us to disconnect. The 1960s sitcom The Flintstones, for instance, was responsible for one of the most unusual houses around the world. Popular TV host Dick Clark modeled his home to match that of Fred and Wilma in the age-old sitcom. Talk about being a fan. The house has a rocky interior, divided into one bedroom and 2 bathrooms. It also has a fireplace and a couple of large windows, through which you can have a spectacular view of city lights, sunsets, and a host of natural physical features around the property, like the Boney Mountains, the Pacific Ocean, Sereno Valley, and the Channel Islands. The late TV host had initially set out to sell the iconic home at a whopping $3.5 million in early 2012, but it was later sold at $1.7 million in 2014. Now it's time for today's best pick. Today's photo was sent to us by a subscriber, so if you come across a photo online and want to know more details about it, just send it over to us. We might even feature it on a future video. Number 2. The Cliff House. Well, the Cliff House doesn't exist. For now. But it should in a few years to come. What you're seeing here is an underdeveloped concept by Modscape, an Australian architecture company. The model is meant to be a basis for building homes on such extreme parcels of coastal land. But how did they come up with such a seemingly bizarre idea? According to their website, they got it from observing how barnacles cling to the hull of a ship. So they thought of a similar way of building houses. Using this concept, the homes are more like part of the cliff, as opposed to being an addition to the natural landscape. Being in such a house gives you an unlimited view of the ocean on whichever side you turn.
I saved the best for last, but first, I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. If you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it, it really works.
Number 1. The Steel House, USA. Once you're 20 minutes outside Lubbock, Texas, you can't help but notice one structure that seems a bit out of place. Some think it looks like a giant grand piano, while others are of the view it's more of a 4-legged UFO. But one thing's for sure, it was once someone's residence. It was built and owned by Robert Bruno and fell vacant since his demise. Today, it's taken care of by Charles Hobbs, who doubles as the tour guide around the one-of-a-kind house. The house is made of about 150 tons of blackened steel, with all the pieces welded by Robert himself, and without help. It's no surprise that the good architect worked on the house for over 35 years, and yet never got to complete it. He had some grand plans though. Before his death, he was looking to install moldings of nude models on the walls, an aquarium, and a pool. Charles, the neighbor, decided to keep the house just as Bruno left it, as a way of honoring the architect.